All right. Questions of the week is what we got going here. So this was the first one that came up from Kristen. Thank you very much for bringing this to my attention. Remember how you had a lease and they'd say, "Oh, the tenant is on the dime for the first $50 or $100." Anybody seen that in a lease?
Would you repeat that?
Yeah, I've seen leases where they'll say, "Well, the tenants must pay the first $50 of any repair." Anyone ever seen that? I've seen that.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
that is now
Or,
dead. That's now
oh,
dead. You
really?
cannot do that. The law changed. So it's 55.11208 prohibited provisions in rental agreements is what this definition is. So when you see this out there, because you know a lot of agents do not have the training and they're not here. There's only six of you. So I know that, or there's nine of you. So I'll be announcing this out. But thanks to Kristen for bringing this to our attention. She's the one that was on the dime on this. And because one of her clients said, "Hey, I thought he was an attorney, I believe. I don't think I'm supposed to be paying this." So
May
what
I
it
ask you,
says, yeah,
may I ask
go
you,
ahead.
may I question about that?
Yes.
Because on a lot of the leases, it says they will pay the $100 deductible for repair. And what they're talking about is like, um, or 50 or 75. And my explanation that I was given is that because sometimes they'll call you out for a light bulb or something,
Right.
or something fictitious.
Right.
And so it's to eliminate that. So is that what you're talking about, or the actual repair cost of
Well,
something?
here's what it says. Unless necessitated by the tenant's violation of a requirement of this chapter, no landlord shall require a tenant to pay any fee for the maintenance or repair of any dwelling unit. So I would say that we as tenant agents and even landlord agents, we have to sit down and say, "Let me show you what you're responsible for. If you call me for a light bulb, that's on you.
Okay.
And we're going to charge you." I think that would be covered here because it's in the lease. They're going to take because light bulbs and filters are the responsibility of the tenant.
Well,
And
or it's a minor repair.
yeah,
It's not.
right. But what we've had happening in these leases is they've been saying, "Hey, you're responsible for the first $50 or $100." So the dishwasher
Yeah.
dies and the landlord has to pay for it. So this has been pointed out that look, all fee for all maintenance repairs are on the landlord.
So let me
There's no having the tenant join in with you to maintain your rental property
so let me
unless
ask
they've
you.
done something to it to damage it themselves.
So Anthony, let me ask you this. In a addendum to lease that I had last month, we put in there the tenant is our responsible for any fees associated with missing a pre-scheduled owner and or contractor appointment. Is that
Yes,
okay?
that's covered.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually still in the lease. I looked that up.
Okay.
Mhm.
And it says, look, when you agree to the repair, you've agreed to the entry to your property and you've agreed to the time slot. If you miss that and cost me money, that's on you. That's still in the lease. But and I think that's reasonable. But what's happening is people saying, "Oh, you got the dishwasher problem? Don't forget, you're responsible for the first $100." That's what's been happening. And a lot of this I don't see this happening with property management companies, but I guarantee you the onesie twosie landlords,
Mhm.
they don't get it. And they want to be in business, but they don't want to be in business. You know what I'm saying? Can they
Mhm.
charge a repair deductible? No, that's what I'm saying. They can't charge a repair deductible. And this is what was added. Was that no landlord shall require a tenant to pay any fee for the maintenance or repair of any dwelling unit. And also in our lease, what was also taken out, because I think this went round and round, that the tenant's no longer responsible for keeping the gutters clean. So in the walkout or when they get out, the tenant is not no longer responsible. Um, they're no longer responsible cleaning out the gutters. That's on the landlord.
What about fireplaces? Does that mention anything?
It was not mentioned there.
Okay.
So I
I was just
think,
curious.
but think about it. everyone has to have a gutter. Not everyone has to use the fireplace.
Hmm.
I think that's kind of what they're trying to cover here. But this is the main thing is this paragraph C here in this code. Prohibited provisions and rental agreements. So, and if you can define exculpation, you get a bonus.
What?
What's exculpation? I have no idea what that word means.
Look it up. Look it up. Look it up.
Open in reading mode, print, copy, inspect. Is that what that means? No, that's not what that means. I don't know.
So
Anyway,
would they have to take these nominal 50 or $100 that they're charging for whatever they call a service or customer service call or whatever? Would that come out as well?
I'll repeat that again.
Okay. So they're calling it a repair deductible.
Mm,
So,
Right. That's
it's
exactly what we're talking about.
yes, no, I understand,
Yeah.
but sometimes they call it something else, like, the customer service call or something. It's a
Yeah.
call. And that's where sometimes it's debatable whether it's legit or something that
Possibly.
was
I mean, if the
that.
landlord wants to get wrapped around the axle about someone doing that, and I can see where they say my bulb's out. Well, that's on you. Go get a light bulb
Mhm.
because the light bulb is according to your usage, as a tenant. The filter is according to you and your that's regular maintenance. But what this is
Okay.
talking about is paying a fee for it. Yeah, Leah, what you got?
So I was saying that some landlords they would purchase a home warranty and then have the tenants pay the deductibles.
Yeah,
So is that also prohibited?
I think that's dead. Pay
Okay.
any fee for the maintenance.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Good news for the landlord. You have a warranty. Good news for the tenant. You don't have to pay the deductible. And this, at least in our circle, we got to make sure that our people don't cross this line. I can see this becoming a big issue for real estate
Mhm.
companies who don't enforce it. Laura, go ahead.
Yes, and this is only for new leases going forward, or is it retroactive?
I think it's leases going forward. Um,
Yeah, because it's in some
but
of the
I would think
leases.
that let's say I'm a landlord and I got a 3-year lease that started last year and I got this thing here and I say, hey, you need to pay this. What's the law say? This is the law. I think this overrides any lease.
Okay,
But I
okay.
know I looked at the lease that we have now, the VRLTA lease. Where we might really need to be looking at this as a tenant agent is when it's a lease that's provided by the landlord or the management company. Yeah. Um, Kristen, and many property management companies charge you $100 or $200 service charge for all repairs.
Mhm.
Yeah, they can't do that anymore. Yeah.
Okay.
Cleared of blame or liability. Thank you. Appreciate that, Kristen. That's a big word. I don't use that word much. Did all of the new updated documents been updated? Yeah, they have. Yeah. So anyway, I wanted to bring that one out because we keep having people say, "Well, I've got this deductible." No, you can't have that anymore. And so as people are landlords specifically re-renting their properties used to that point, they may want to keep charging that and they can't. So that's the language right here on this page. Any fee for the maintenance or repair of any dwelling unit. It's on them. You want in that show? You want in that game? You want to be a business owner of a real estate property? Then you got to take care of it. Can I show my listing to unrepresented buyer? This came up yesterday. Yes, if you're the listing agent or someone on your team. If you have a bona fide team, they could do that, okay? Because they are part of that team. Can I help an agent show their listing to an unrepresented buyer? No. The Virginia Code is very clear now. It does not allow us to show buyers without an agreement. Now, this came up yesterday and say, I go out, I travel 45 minutes, get to my listing. They say, no, I don't want to do it. I'm an attorney. I'm fine. And then they get in there, you're like, oh, maybe I do need some representation. So I get it. I've had this happen as well. What I've done, and I think we could do this with for sale rentals. What I've done with not rentals, for sale properties, I do this with rental properties. I get a rental. A lot of people are seeing it on Zillow and HotPads, etc., or Realtor.com. They call me. They want to see it. Can I see it Tuesday afternoon? No, I'm having an open on Saturday. And I funnel all those visitors to Saturday. And then I have my open house on Saturday for my rental. And I just say, I'm giving everyone access on Saturday. Well, Saturday doesn't work for me. That's when I'm having it done. Because for a rental, man, to go out, because rentals have a lot of calls, and you're going out and trying to rearrange your day because they won't get an agent, then you need to control how you're going to be able to work with all those people without being charged that you're not showing it. I am showing it. I'm doing it on Saturday. Maybe
Yeah,
you
and I
do
think that Anthony, I think that also is a safety issue too.
yeah,
Um, you don't know these people who are asking to come in and
yeah.
see them. So that's a great idea. Thank you,
Right.
Anthony,
And
for
also if you have a tenant property with a tenant in it, that also helps you
Mhm.
to work around that tenant schedule to say, look, can you give me 2 hours on the weekend or 2 hours on Thursday night or something? You got to help me out here to get this. You agreed to it as well. So they can't do that. So yes, go ahead. Someone mentioned.
Anthony, so
Yeah.
I have a question actually. I come across this before and I was thinking about it, yet I think you're the only one qualified to answer this question. When we get a rental listings and we get, because we paid the Zillow, listed on Zillow and the paid part of it, then you get all these leads, but then again, running out showing rental properties left and right when it's not your tenant and they, nobody
Right.
nobody wants to have an agent. They just want to see the property. Uh, I guess the agreement is with the brokerage, right? It's not with the individual agent. The agent is representing the brokerage for that particular agent.
Hmm.
Why can't we have other agents from our brokerage be able to assist with that signed agreement? And then if that unrepresented buyer is truly interested in the property, then they can just get paid that, 25% tenant fee.
Right. Because that buyer or that tenant has to understand um, how they're paying for the services. This is why showing help, when someone says, "I can someone help me show properties on Saturday or Friday? I'm not available." That person already has an agreement with our company, even though you may not be the agent, but you're helping out. They have an agreement. They understand how they're paying. They've agreed to that. An unrepresented buyer who's trying to bypass the requirement of the law now to sign something. I'm now sending an agent out to go show a property to someone who we don't have an agreement with. And the law says, "Oh, you're showing this property?" So the question is the agent the listing agent for the landlord? The company is, the agent's not. And if the agent wants to bypass that and say, yeah, I'm going to represent the landlord too, and then show up and say, well, I can help you be the tenant agent, they're showing a property to someone that we do not have an agreement with. That's the problem. I can nail that down a little bit further. I will call NVAR and say, look, here's the scenario. What's y'all's
Yeah,
take on it?
because I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
on my last rental, I had a huge problem because I had asked a couple agents if
Yeah.
they were interested in rental leads, and I have a rental coming up in Centerville that is like, it takes me 30 to 45 minutes to get there.
Yeah.
And I know all these tenants are going to be reaching out to me saying, well, I just want to see this property.
Right.
But this is what happened to me last time. I had several agents who were willing to show the property, and I was gladly giving them these leads because maybe my property won't work. They can show it to somebody else, or they can show them some other property. But somebody finally said, we don't want to pay all these fees that, your agent is telling us is like $1,000 or whatever. I mean, they were charging retainer fees and I don't know what else they were charging. But at the end of the day, they were like, No, I just want you to show me this property to see if I
Mhm.
like it.
Right. Okay. I see those as two different situations. Like
Mhm.
just this week, we had two agents, or just yesterday, who wants rental leads. That's different because then it's on that agent. Let's say I took the rental leads. Now it's on me. Hey, I want to see this property. Great. Let's get together and talk about how this is going to work, and we can sign it. Do you have an agent? And a lot of them, yeah, I have an agent. Well, you need to go back. And folks, it's okay to push them back to their agent. There's no problem with that. You're not being mean. You're just calling that other agent out. But if there's no representation agreement in there at all, that the consumer is going to have to cross the bridge on this, and the only way we can help them cross the bridge is saying no.
But
And
that's
so I get what you're saying. I was like, when you said I'm giving rental leads, that's different than can you meet this person tomorrow at 2 o'clock?
well, but
That's not
that's
a lead. That's an actual showing appointment.
right. That's what I'm saying.
Mhm.
Why can our brokerage, because again, the agreement is with the brokerage. Why can and don't we have it? I don't know in the rental because I don't do that many rentals, but
Mhm.
in the listing agreement, it says the sub agents and whatnot of the brokerage can be helping with the, showings and whatnot.
Mhm.
So like, why can one of our agents just show the property to prospective tenants
Mhm.
if that's not the right, it's a lead that I passed on to them and I cannot be there. And I said,
Mhm.
hey,
Yeah.
Mary Smith is going to be able to meet you there or reach out to Mary Smith.
Mhm.
Why does Mary Smith now
Yeah.
need to have an agreement signed with the tenant to show him this property if the agreement is with the brokerage that sub agents could help, you know, I'm missing the word, like they can be there, assist us with
Right.
whatever
Right.
else is necessary. So that's what I'm confused about.
Yeah.
And if
Okay.
that
I'm gonna.
tenant wants it, then yeah, they can
Sure.
sign something like, yes, you will be the one that, I have to use. I think there has to be an easier way of going
Okay.
about this because, we don't have teams. So
Got it.
now
So let's
to
get real then. Let's get real. I go show your property a tenant, right? And it's fine. If we want to do it this way, it works. But here's I'm thinking as we're talking, I'm an agent. I'm asked by a listing agent, can you go meet this tenant who has no agreement with anybody? Yes, I will. And then they contact the listing agent. I want to write a contract. Well, you need to go through Betty. I don't want to go through Betty. I want to go through you. Then me as the listing agent, I should be willing to pay Betty the 25%, even though the lease is coming through me. So that's what I'm saying is, but the law is pretty clear. That tenant is supposed to know, am I paying something and who am I paying? So I'm going to call the legal department at NVAR and say, what about this? What about we're showing this property in house because we have an agreement with the listing agreement? But does that cover me for non-represented people? Now, before I go to Megan, I would say this. This is why I funnel everybody to a rental open house. Okay. Because there's a lot of folks, and I'm probably included, am not excited about going and showing onesie twosie listings at a rental. I'm just not excited about that. But I think the difference so when I'm setting an appointment, here's the difference I'm laying out, and then we'll move on. The difference I'm laying out is you set me up with an appointment at 2:30 to show that property to a tenant. I haven't even had a chance to get them on board to be a tenant agreement with me. I'm showing up, supposedly representing the landlord. And it's not really a lead, it's just someone who wants to bypass the whole system and try to get in there because they don't understand how we get paid. But I'm going to ask them is like, is there a problem with that?
yeah, I think it's the biggest
Yeah.
issue on the rentals because again, tenants will, I just want to see the property. I don't know if
Yeah.
I'm going to like it yet, and okay.
Yeah. Then they need to get an agent. And that's where we push back. Megan, you got your hand up. Maybe you're going to, um,
Can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you. Yes.
Okay, so my understanding with this, because I have posed this question before, is that like kind of what we do in the office is say, hey, do you want my tenant leads? Like technically that's not kosher, shouldn't be done. It should be, hey, can you show my property that I have a rental listing with, and I will pay you X dollars to do it. Therefore, you are getting paid for your services of showing that property, and you work for the landlord. Now, if and when you're at that property, you meet a tenant who decides, I want to make an offer, submit an application. It's at that point that that agent's responsibility to say, do you want my help and services to help you navigate the lease and get then a representation agreement signed and represent them. Otherwise, if they decide to, kind of like you were saying, it becomes a handshake thing between the listing agent and the showing agent to say, this is an unrepresented party. I can't help, like what I say with my landlords is, I can't help you with the lease, but the person who showed you the house can, and then kind of make them the designated person. And then even though the tenant is not technically in representation, they're unrepresented, then the landlord agent is paying the tenant agent whatever fee when they represent that person.
Right. And I think we're also talking about, can I go show it? I just got to get a read on this from NVAR.
Yes. So
I
my
just feel
understanding
like,
is they can show it because it's brokerage agreement. It's not agent agreement. It's brokerage.
Right. Then that's where, if I show it and nothing happens, do I get a $50 gift card?
Right.
Or I show it and they do come back and they come back to the listing agent, I do want to put an application in. Well, just go to Sherry and do it. No, I don't want to pay an agent because they, and this is where this next slide we're going to come up is, we've got to do a better job explaining how I get paid and what's going on in the marketplace. What's going on, folks, is most sellers are paying the buyer agent and the tenant agent. It's rare that they're not. Okay. And if they're not, then you got to get payment from your buyer. But that we'll get that in just a second. But thanks.
Anthony?
Yeah, go ahead, Sherry.
You know what I think this might be coming into? Like, I understand. I don't think they should. I think we should be allowed to show the property for the listing agent if they're in the brokerage. But I think what's happening is we've been taught when you're doing a rental that you need to, because you're taking them all these places, you need to charge them a retainer fee of 300, or some people are asking for 900. So in a case like this where you've gone for the listing agent to show them, and now they want to engage you. I mean, do you really want, if they're definitely going to go with this property and you do an agreement for the 25 or 30% or whatever you charge, I mean, kind of not charging the 900 or whatever it is fee to take them around. That might be.
I mean, this is where you get to what can we require as a brokerage versus what you can do in your business. What we require is that you don't work for free, number one. Right. What we require is that you at least charge 2.5% and then get broker approval if it comes underneath that. What we require is you have broker agreements with people that want to go see, and let's keep it in the rental world. You got to have agreements to go show them around. I don't require that you charge a retainer fee. Anthony, when I'm in the agent world of my business, if you won't pay me my $250, I'm not going to go show your properties, because I'm telling you, they can drag you around for 3 weeks and you have just made $15 an hour. Folks, minimum wage is 12.
It's true.
And I'm just I'm calling out everyone to don't be a minimum wage agent anymore. Minimum wage is no longer $7.50. That was 4 years ago. Okay. We're at 12 and it's moving to 15. And if you go spend 30, 40 hours with a tenant, it just doesn't make business sense to be doing all that, get paid $12 an hour, $15 an hour. And out of that, you got to pay your mileage. These are real world situations. I mean, we've kind of segued to a whole nother area here of how I'm going to run this rental thing, but that's why I charge 30% and $250. All right. So my last 2 or 3 rentals, I got my 25% from the landlord, and I turned around and sent them an invoice, and I got another $400 or $500 from the tenant. So have I had some say no? Yeah. And guess what? I don't want to work with them
There you go.
because that means they probably would not show up to go see the properties. And I started doing this about 2, 3 years ago when I had 4 adults wanting to go out and see a property, sold them 5, and had to coordinate all their schedules and get it all lined up. And then we've gone a different direction. I said, that's crazy. I'm not doing that anymore. So,
Anthony, I'm
yeah.
actually thinking that there might be something that we can write in our agreement saying that, hey, let's say, and again, I'm going back to this because every once in a blue moon I have a rental and I
Yeah.
get flooded with the leads, and I try to stay on top of it because at the end of the day, I want to rent out the property. Yet I just cannot accommodate everybody's schedule. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like I just can't. And yes, the open house will not work for everybody. They say, oh, I'm out of town or whatever, or no, I can't make it, I'm working and whatnot.
Mhm.
So again, I mean, it's hard to say no because you just don't know who they are and say, well, no, I'm not going to show it to you. But what I'm
Mhm.
thinking is maybe having some type of a clause in our leases that says, hey, if I'm going to show you more than one, then I will charge you a retainer fee of X if you want me to show you additional properties or something like that.
You
You know
can
what I mean?
because that's your business. You can do that, but you got to do it with everybody.
Right.
Megan, you got another hand question, comment? Or is that your old one? Megan?
Old
Okay.
hand, sorry.
Oh, yeah. Old hand. Okay, got it. All right. Yeah, I mean, you could do that. And that's where in the rental agreement, the tenant agreement, you'd say, is there a retainer fee? Yes, $250. Is it applied to the commission you get? Yes, you could put that. There's a box to check that. And then in other, you could say the 250 goes into effect on the second property and beyond. But you got to say
And
that with everybody,
yeah,
especially in rentals, people. Lowest amount of pay, highest amount of liability. That's just a broker reality. So you say it's 250 from a retainer fee, you put it in there. Well, they don't have a lot of money. You still put it in there, and other you could take it out, but you charge everyone the 250 or the 300 or whatever it is. And you charge the 30% to everyone in rental world. Okay? I get it. There's negotiation. That's what it's about. It's all negotiable. But I had the last tenant. I said, "Well, I charged." He said, "How's this work?" Well, 250 to do this, and then I charge 30%. If I can get 30% from the landlord, we're good. They text me back, "Well, we can't afford the 250. We can't afford the $250, and they want to go see $2,500 properties." I'm sorry, you're telling me right now you probably can't afford to move in this world, and that's my business cap. I'm not. I can't go out and make $300 for 30 hours of work. Think about it. You got a $2,000 rental. The landlord's offering $500. Are you going to do 20 hours? That's not a rhetorical question. Are you going to do 20 hours?
no, and then
$500.
you
Are
got
you
the
going to do
other
20?
fees
Would,
taken
would you
out
do
too.
25 hours probably?
Yes.
Okay, let's say 25 hours. I am now making $20 an hour. Okay. And let's say I've traveled 100 miles. Is that fair or is it less than that?
Around here, that's fair.
Okay, 100 miles. And let's say I'm getting 25 miles a gallon. On my car, I get 26 miles. But let's say it's 25 miles. That's 4 gallons of gas. That's right now, I just saw today, it's $4. That's $16. So I'm getting $20 an hour. I had to work 1 hour just to pay my gas. Okay. And then I got taxes on top of that. It's a reality, folks. I know I'm being a little forceful on this, but this is a reality.
Well, broker
And
fees
I
come
think
out of
this
that
is where a
too.
lot of folks right now, they're still living in $15 an hour world thinking that was double minimum wage. It's not anymore. 25 bucks. And so that's why I plug in the 250. I plug in my 30%. And the renters who want to go with me, who have paid that fee, they are going to stay with me. And then for that rental of 2,200 bucks, I'm making like $800 or $900 instead of $400. Lily, go ahead.
Um,
I was just thinking it's like really hard for the new agents when they receive those leads to have the conversations when they've never met actual that lead, I mean like those
Yeah.
people.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe that if the listing agent had had any contact with those
Mm-hmm.
potential tenants, they should also
Right.
actually give them the ideas like, hey, you can see the property, that person's going to show you the property. However, do you have to understand that you have to have a representation with them? And
Right.
then because a lot of people are still not educated on the subject, a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
are freaking out when they've been asked to sign something
Mm-hmm.
before ever they seen an agent, right?
Yeah. You're
So
right. Yeah.
mhm.
There's
It
there's a
helps.
dichotomy in the business place. They go see rentals called apartments. No one's charging them anything to go see those. They just walk in the door and they get to see the property. So they have this idea, why are you charging me? Well, you were seeing private listings. You're not seeing apartment dwellings that have a salesperson at the front door. And so, and then when you look at Zillow World, oh, sheesh. I had a client says, I got 20 applications on my house, but I can't get it rented. I'm like, what? See, I mean, you know how Zillow works, right? Do you want to apply for this house? And they click it and they put their name in it and they think they've put an application in. The consumers think they put an application in. And a lot of your Gen Zs and a lot of your younger millennials do not understand the process except for what they see online. And they think that's how you apply for an apartment. That's not in reality world. This is one of they haven't adulted enough yet. And I'm not saying that as a bad thing. It's true. They have not adulted enough. They haven't signed anything in their own name. They haven't rented a car. Some of them that are getting apartments can't rent a car because you can't rent a car till you're 25. I'm sorry. I'm getting excited about this. But anyway, I saw another hand up. It was taking a lot longer than I thought on this rental question. It's like, okay. This was like inform you. Don't charge them anything for anything. Let's move along to the next question. And then like boom, we're like 30 minutes in. So any other questions on that? Yeah. Okay. All right. Let me go back to the presentation. Okay. All right. How do you buyer agents get paid? We've kind of flowed through this one on how do buyer agents get paid. I'm going to kind of do a quick primer on this one. The basics are buyers are responsible for the payment to their agent. Okay. Um, and one of our agents in Maryland said, I am getting a lot of people who keep saying, don't worry, the seller's going to pay it. You can't say that. Buyer can ask in the offer for seller to pay buyer agent fee on behalf of the buyer. That's what you're doing in the offer. Now, I'm signing all the paperwork, right? It is rare that I'm seeing anyone having to pay their own commission from the buyer. It's not rare that, let's say you offered 3 and you got 2.5 or 2 3/4, and the buyer agent is paying the remainder. It's not rare also that you're asking for 3 and you get 2.5, and then you amend your buyer broker agreement to say, I'm only getting 2.5. That's not unusual either. Highly unusual that nothing's at the table for Maryland, D.C., or Virginia. So that is happening. So that's the discussion you have with the buyer. Yes, it's your responsibility to get this money to me. That's how I say it. You're agreeing that it's 3%. Your job and my job is to get my 3%. Give me the opportunity to negotiate at the table for the 3% and also to try to get you some closing cost assistance. Let me do my job. And if I can't get it, we'll come back and amend this buyer brokerage agreement. And I have the form right here. It's called the brokerage agreement amendment. So you let them know you're not going to damage them if you can't get it. But if you only do 1.5 or 2.5%, you cannot ask in the offer anything more that's in your buyer broker agreement. You just can't. Now, well, how are they going to know, Anthony? Ever heard of an audit? I have. It's not fun. DPOR, class action suit. I could see that happening. We want to see all your buyer broker agreements. How come you keep having these 2.5% agreements, but you're offering three, you're asking for three, or you whatever. You got two in your buyer broker agreements, and then you got three, 2.5 in your buyer in your contracts, and then you got these amendments later on that are bringing it up. It's better to have an amendment that brings it down in my records than it is to have an amendment on that buyer broker agreement that goes from 2.5 to 3, because then I was able to, or 2 to 2.5. What I'm saying is, as a business, you need to say, I charge 3%. I'm going to go for 3%. I'm going to put it in the contract. If we can't get that, can you make up the difference? This is the dialogue. Well, I don't know, Anthony, we can't make up the difference. I said, you don't have 0.5% on this 800. You don't have 4,000. No, I don't. Well, what we can do then is I can amend this later if I can't get the 3. Does that sound fair to you? Shake your head. Yes, it does. I just can't be on the dime for 2.5. You won't. I'm not going to damage you. We're going to go for 3. If I get 3, great. If we're competing, probably bring it down to 2.5. And then we'll go to the buyer brokerage agreement and amend it. Okay? So that's how you handle that, because your buyer agency agreement must match the offer compensation. And plus, this has happened to me. The buyer agent, we got 2.5, seller agent, listing agent, but he had told me in a text, I told you 2. I said, well, I put 2.5 in there. And this is a day or two later after he realized that we got 2.5. But this is what I agreed to. It's in the text I sent you. I said, yeah, but I put it in the contract. And in Maryland, big bold letters, it says, this is not final. Whatever's agreed to in the contract is what's final. He did not do his job. And he's upset at me. Well, sorry, bud. So do your job. Don't just send a note to them, and because Maryland's a little different. It's not in the contract. There's an addendum that goes with it. It's very confusing sometimes. But it's got to match what's in your compensation. So the standard of practice is insert the higher amount in your buyer broker agreement, and then amend your brokerage agreement to a lower amount if agent compensation changes in the contract. Any questions on this? And maybe I'm just the old guy, bald-headed gray, and I don't have a problem with these discussions with my buyers. But, the more you do it with your buyers, the easier it's going to get. I mean, I've had this discussion in an office. I've had a discussion over across the hood of a car, and this is the way I say it. Just very conversational. And all of them have said, okay, yes to 3%. Have I amended a lot of them? Yeah, I have. I've amended a lot of them because I couldn't get it. But on some, I got 3. I tell you, Kingstown's killing it. They came to me after this change in 2024, that fall and the spring of 25. They said, Anthony, I'm getting more 3s than I've ever gotten before because I'm just asking for it. And the market had slowed down at that time, and they got it. Now, between now and the end of the year, the market is slowing down. You're going to be the only offer, and you can ask for 3 and get it. That 5% increase from 2.5 to 3, that's a 20% increase in what you take home. Think about that. So instead of 10,000, you're getting 12,000. Tell your spouse or your significant other. They'll be in your ballpark. They'll say, you're not asking for it? You could get 20% more and you're not asking for it? But I get it. When you're competing, you're not going to get it. I get it. We're going to have to, alter that. But at least be asking for it. Okay. Any other questions on that? Okay. Am I responsible for false claims of a buyer or a seller? Give me some examples. You have any buyers or sellers or tenants or landlords who lie to you?
I do.
Oh, do you, Megan?
Is this about me? I felt
No.
like it was when I read it.
No, it's happened several times lately. So you're just the last one,
Oh, good.
latest one.
Yeah, my buyer, I believe, I don't know this for certain, but I believe committed 100% mortgage fraud by stating that they had access to an account to use funds in the account. That, in fact, when we got to closing, I was the only one sitting in the room because they couldn't use those funds.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a lie there. Anybody else?
And that's just one of them. That's just one of them.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Oh, they said that they would deposit earnest money deposit. They signed an addendum agreeing to extend to give them more time to close, so an extension, and said that they would deposit earnest money deposit into escrow in order to do so, and then didn't do it.
Right. I had one, the agent came to me and says, this guy's not depositing his deposit, $10,000. It's a cash deal. He's not depositing a deposit. And then we can't get a hold of him. He's lying by not saying anything to us now. And then we're running around. We still represent them, even though he didn't lie, but he said, well, he did. I'm going to give you 10,000 by this date. Did he give it to us? No, you lied. There was no problem. He was not having a cash flow issue. He just decided, I'm not going to put it in there. And then he says, well, y'all need to get me out of this. And I knew the guy's mother. She's a broker from a long time ago. And that's when I discovered that we got out because this property, and lucky to him that he didn't wind up in court asking for the 10 grand. We got out because they had a code violation that they did not tell us about. And then when you clear the code violation, you got to let the buyer know it's been cleared. It's a two-step thing. Here's the code violation, and you need to know about it because I know about it. And then once we've got it cleared, I give you another notice saying it's been cleared. And they didn't do either one of those. And so we were able to get out on, you had a code violation and didn't tell us. You didn't disclose it. You know what the violation was? It was a city code violation. I've told this story before. Some of y'all know it. You know what it was? The city of Falls Church had dinged them on
the one about the grass.
The grass. But when they showed the property, there's a notice on the door. Okay, that's fine. Did I know about it as a buyer? Yeah. Had I been given the notice by the seller? No. So we got out on that one. Now, here's another part of that story as a broker time thing. It was the agent complained, obviously, y'all did this, blah, 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 blah. And we had told him that we don't have the deposit and the guy's not giving it to us and we're not hearing him. So we told him about that. And so we went in there and that was the beginning of the complaint. But then through all the paperwork, NVAR said, yeah, but your agent did this other thing. So NVAR picked up something that was not done right so the complaint that we had to go to NVAR about was waived. But then in the contract work, they found something our agent hadn't done and they dinged her for that. So even though you may escape punishment from one, the other could be a problem. So, the challenge you have here is you got buyers and sellers that, what if I find out they are lying? Okay. And this can be tough. Number one is we don't like conflict, right? Don't be afraid of the conflict. So you have to confront without getting emotional. Mr. and Ms. Wisnowski, you are hiding the fact that you have mold behind that wall. And now I'm finding out that you knew about it. Well, yeah, but we thought of it. Well, yeah, but you can't do that. Is this accurate? You didn't know about it? Well, no, we knew about it. Okay, help me understand. What did you think was going to happen? Help me understand why you're saying A when it's B. Help me understand that. I'm not saying, are you crazy? You're going to get everybody in trouble. I'm not doing that. I'm not losing it. And then this could lead to a charge of fraud or breach of contract or default. So I'm explaining to them what could happen here with the lie that I've caught them in. Okay. And then if they say, are you sure you want to say, are you sure you want to face that threat? We have to disclose this. We've got to disclose that you have mold behind this wall and it hasn't been remediated, which by the way, if there's a problem with the property and they remediated it, you don't have to disclose it once it's been taken care of. But this is where they've got a problem. They know they got a problem and they're not telling anybody about it. They know there's mold in the attic. So we can find that out with a home inspection. Mold's treated a little bit differently. We have mold in the attic. It's being sold as is. And then if they will not do it, I'm sorry, I can't cross that bridge with you. Okay? Or you find something like that, and then they tell you with the next contract after fall, don't tell anybody. That's the lie. That's usually where it comes down, something like that. I don't want you to tell anybody. Well, you got to fix it. I'm not going to fix it, but don't tell anybody. You're supposed to represent me. I can't cross that bridge with you. Now I know something. I've got to say something. Or like in Megan's situation, you lied on this application. I didn't lie. I didn't mean to lie, but you did. It's inaccurate. You need to come clean, and they don't want to come clean. What do you got to do? I can't cross that bridge with you. I'll represent you the best I can, but I can't cross the bridge with the lie. And that could be the problem there. Any comments? Any comments on that? Lying.
Um, I mean, in a case like Megan's, like, can they go after these people? Like the seller can go after these
Yeah.
people?
Yeah. But that's where it is. It's up to the seller to go after them.
Mm-hmm.
We could go after someone that has damaged us from getting some sort of payment that we were due. Then you got to look at, okay, it's a risk factor. Like, okay, because what do they say? 80% of court decisions of, I fine you $20,000 or 80% of them don't never get collected. I remember one agent we had, her first deal that the guy they were going to go to closing and he just didn't pay. And they didn't want to stand in the way of the buyer. So they went to closing. For a year, we pursued that guy. A year. And by the time we got the reward from the court, he'd gone bankrupt and there was no payment. It's $12,000 or something like that. This is like 10, 15 years ago. Actually, longer than that, 20 years ago. And so we won. We still didn't get anything. And that's
Getting
where then
blood
the
out of a
enforcement
stone.
of it. But doesn't mean you don't go. And if it's beyond $5,000, which is small claims court, then you got to go to circuit court. You got to pay attorneys.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but if they lose, which I know they will, they got to get paid. So yeah, we could do that. That's why we have the mediation. They're professional mediators. That's why I have NVAR. We have DPOR. To try to use those other methods to make that happen. In Maryland, if there's a disagreement, everyone signs off in the agreement. The buyer, in the contract, they sign off that they're going to go to mediation first. I don't think we have that in Virginia, but
A question.
yeah,
Anthony, did you see the email? I can't remember who it was. It was um a male agent in our office had sent an email basically saying that like his buyer closed on a property and then the next day the basement flooded.
yeah,
And
I had that
I
twice
was
this
just
year. Yeah,
yeah, so I'm just kind of wondering like how does that get
yeah.
resolved if it does in any sort of favor for the buyer?
Right. What you have to do there, and it's funny that you say that. That was one there, and we had another one. I had to go back to, is this the same one? No, this is a completely different case. Same type of thing in Maryland. They both were in Maryland. So I just had to direct them to the mediation. I said, you can take a legal, but you all have agreed to mediation. Here's the mediators. I just want them to pay. I said, that's what the mediation's about. You try to go there first, and you agreed to it. And I gave them the links to the mediators, and that's what they have to do. For Son, it was like 1 week later. Another one, it was like a month later, and they both felt like there's no way you didn't know about this.
Mm-hmm.
So they felt
And,
like the
and
seller was lying to them about the condition and that they had to know that this was an issue.
well,
And
and
so,
I'll tell you personal experience. When we bought our house here,
mm,
I did the walkthrough. This was 2018. Did the walkthrough. I had my flip-flops on. This is before I got into real estate, and closed on the house, came back, took my flip-flops off, went down into the basement, and the floor was wet.
mm,
And I went back to my agent at the time, and she went through everything. She said, it's going to be, to prove that this was something that they knew, and go through all that. It's just, or you could just cough up the money to fix it, and I'll help you. And
mm,
that's basically where we were on that, because it's a lot to have to prove that there was that malice intent,
mm,
unless there's something, if there's a clue report or something like that
right.
that shows. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's what you got to prove. And what are the courts? Is there doubt? Yeah, we doubt that they knew. So no, we're not going to do anything. And now you have all the legal fees, which could be as much as the problem. But they both have mediation, and that's where, again, people don't like conflict, and they just want it all taken care of, and they want you to do it. They want you to. This is where I talk about rent backs, right? Um, you have a rent back and then they're in the tail end of it and they're moving out now and the new owner is going to take it over and there's a problem and they keep coming back to the agents to take care of this problem between the parties. They've already agreed in the contract that after the rent back's over, they will communicate with each other and people don't want you to do that. That's where the conflict comes for us. Is that and at the end of a lease or in the middle of a lease, they want me to go back 3 months before and take care of this problem. Um, and some of it comes up with who knew what when, and I'm not able to cross that bridge with you if you're lying about it. So, anyway, anything else? Did that answer y'all's question on that one?
Can I
I mean,
ask something about wet basements?
yeah.
Um, my first deal last year, there was a this inspector, I forgot his name. And we were going through the house on home inspection, and they had those new floors, and it was a flip. And I saw that the new floors, the edges were kind of looking wet. And I talked to the inspector at the time. The clients were not in the house. They were both busy working, and I was documenting everything, taking pictures and so on. And I asked the inspector, I was like, I think those floors are wet. And he was like, I don't think so. And I was like,
Mm,
well, they kind of look wet. And he
hmm.
goes like, I don't see any moisture or any water coming out, so I can address this.
So did he have like his little moisture wand and he
He
wasn't
did
getting a
not.
reading? He did?
And I was asking why, and
Oh, did
he's like,
not.
I don't, yeah, he didn't. He
Yeah.
didn't even talked about it. And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
we can check the moisture, right? And he goes like, I don't see anything, so I cannot go there.
Hmm.
So it was like a very interesting conversation because I'm sure they have water issue. And I went and visited them this year at some point, and they it was another moment when we saw like literally like a puddle of water in the middle of the basement with no
Mm.
other visible way for this water.
Yeah.
It seems that somebody spilled the water, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when it went back to my clients and to their now home, and they said, "Hey, do you know what? That water thing happened again."
Mm.
So I'm thinking maybe it's the foundation issues and all that. But however, you know what, if an inspector acts this way,
Yeah.
should we push and be like,
Yeah, I
you should
would.
be doing
Yeah.
your
I
job?
was going yes.
Yeah, I'd push,
I,
and that's where I think we as agents we want everything to come together because I'm having this tit for tat discussion with a guy on LinkedIn who's an attorney who just is all wrapped around the axle about designated agency. It's a fraud. I'm like, dude, it's not a fraud, okay? But one of the things that's different between a legal firm and a real estate firm is we are mutually trying to come together to make something happen that we both want to happen. In a legal situation, it's a winner and a loser. Okay. Mediation is a win-win, or at least a I can deal with that kind of thing. And so we try to make it work because we know they want this house, and we don't want to be the bad guy or gal that says, this is a bad thing. And so you just have to bring it up and say, look, I'm not happy with this report about the floor. It just seems to me there's an issue. And now, if everyone wants to ignore it, the buyers and the land and the other person, I would just put that in print in an email. Say, hey, look, I'm still happy about your house. I'm glad you want to move forward with it. I did mention to you about the floor, and I'm just going to put it here that I gave you my concerns, but I can understand why you want to keep moving forward. But now you have an email. I'm sorry we have to do that sometimes, but now I've got an email. I've got a paper trail, and especially when something starts getting contentious, you want to put out there a backup email to a phone call or a text.
Yes,
Hey,
I
we just
did
got
that.
off the phone about this, and I wanted to confirm that this is what we talked about. And please let me know if you want to add anything to this
I made it
discussion.
very clear that my concerns are this and this and this,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they wanted to move on with the deal, but
Okay.
they knew I have messages. I don't have emails about that, but I do have messages, and
Messages are good. because
This
they're
year
now
I
admissible. So
Yeah,
yeah,
this year I gave them contact for basically that person that was in the office at some point that they're doing with basements, basically wet basements, and they
right.
have this
Yeah,
contact. So if they want to do something about it, they
yeah.
can.
Okay, good.
Who
Leah?
picked the inspector?
Yeah,
Uh,
Anthony, I'm sorry.
okay. The inspector, as a new agent, I don't have the established
Yeah,
connection.
yeah, yeah.
So I will rely on whoever contact somebody I trust gave me. And it happened that that person was busy. So the father of the person who was experienced inspector was available.
Got it.
I would have like, I would take him, right? So the thing is that um, it's hard when you start. You don't have those connections and you just trust your coworkers. That's all.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and they've got a reason they like them, but sometimes we have to agree to disagree, and push back. Leah, what was your question?
No, I was just commenting a more subtle one that we as agent has to be careful with is fair housing.
Oh, yeah.
I had to tell one of my landlord that I'm not going to do this because he wanted me to say certain things that I was a
Yeah.
violation, and we got into an argument about it. And I just said,
Right.
I don't want to do
Can't
this.
cross
And I
this
just tell it,
line.
I fired him. I said, no.
Yeah. We
But we
had one
have to
like
be
that this
conscious of
week.
that as
Yeah.
agents about the
Which remember,
violation.
What kind of stuff was it, Leah? Because I
yeah.
just wonder, I'm curious to hear what the landlord wanted to do.
The landlord wanted me to talk about children and playground and use that as a hook to get tenants in. And I said, no, that's a violation
Yeah.
Mm.
because there are other people who don't have children. And that was one example of what he wanted me to do. And there were other things that he wanted me to say in the description that I said, no, these are violations, you know, of the fair housing laws.
Yeah. Yeah, and keeping in mind with that one, we've got Virginia fair housing and Maryland and DC fair housing, and so people think it's just the 7 protected classes on the federal level, but it's higher than that. And here's the one that I see it violated on both sides. One is great for military family, or great for two things, military and family. Okay, great for military. Military is now a protected class. Now, when the law was changed in Virginia it was to protect the military from being discriminated against. So, what does that also mean? I
Can't
can't
use
show a preference toward.
favoritism. Yeah.
Okay. Before they were protected, I could say, hey, military, this would be great. Right? I could say that. But now that it's a protected class, you can't discriminate against or show preference toward. Okay. I remember years ago, there was an organization, I don't think they're around anymore, but they made a living off of finding violations around this area and up and down the Eastern Seaboard, finding these violations. And their target was newspapers. They would find newspapers violating by putting these ads in from these people that were violating the law. And then they've said that the newspaper's complicit in this fair housing. So you need to have our training come in. So they got remember the city paper in Washington? The city paper? No. I'm really old. The city paper was a great paper. It was a metro thing, and all the cool stuff happening in town. But they had some ads in there that were aiming toward the LGBT community. And you can't show preference toward, and that's what they were doing. So they didn't even get them for discriminating against the LGBT. They got them because they were touting the LGBT. I'm like, man, that was like that's when it blew my mind that okay, there are fair housing groups that are looking for you saying this is great for this group. Because usually, I mean, in the world of fair housing, we all know black and white, right? Black people, white people. We all know that's where it all stemmed from. But I always say this, the folks that put the fair housing law together, they did a really good job back in the 60s and 70s to think, how far could this go? And so they did a great job in saying race, sex, all these things, and not pinpointing it to you can't discriminate against black people and you can't show preference toward white people. They said color. And so it was the whole idea that it's not about against, it's also preference toward. And when they did that, that's what opened it up for this group to go after these newspapers that were showing preference toward marginalized people. And those housing providers thought they were doing a good thing. So let's bring it to 2026. I'm doing a good thing saying this is great for military. Because those guys are coming, they're coming from overseas. They don't know where everything is. So I'm going to tell them this is right next to the base. Great for military, thinking I'm not doing anything wrong, but you are. So anyway, yeah.
Anthony, I know it's after 12, but I have a question. I can give you a call after this. It's regarding adding document to Lone Wolf after a document is already created and now the updated document is not populating.
Okay. Boy, if you could reach out to David on that. I run into these problems y'all are having, and I'm like, I don't know the answer to that one.
Okay.
There's a reason it's not populating. He would know. He's in those clinics. All right, good. Wow, after 12. I'm glad we got that rental thing taken care of in 2 slides. Good night. It's like took half the session. But it was good, right? It's good information. Thank you all.
Can you definitely keep us posted on this, brokerage situation with tenants, and can other agents, show it without having
an agreement? Yeah.
Having an agreement is just, they're simply showing the property, and then how do we navigate through if the tenant pans out and they were the ones showing them the property? I mean, gladly I will pay them the 25%, but that's just kind of helping navigate through the, you need to pay this, you need to sign that, and nobody wants to I just want to see this rental.
Right. And I am going to look at that, but also just as this is never going to go away. We're always going to have buyers and renters who I just want to see the property. We've got to educate them from a court perspective. I appreciate that, but the courts have now said I have to have an agreement. You can go see houses all you want without an agreement, but I got to have an agreement. That's Anthony, the law. It's like the latch is on me as an agent. The latch isn't on you. And so you
Anthony,
can find,
real quick.
Yeah.
Can I go back to earlier this year where I had that situation for the listing, and that I sent you that form, that showing form, you remember, and you were like, are they still actually using this? So the agent,
I think it was EXP. Yeah.
Yeah. EXP. It was a showing form. It wasn't a representation form.
Right.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
What do you
NVAR said that was not enforceable.
Okay. Well, that's what I thought. I mean, but I mean, does that, I mean, obviously it left that agent wide open because she drove all the way from, I want to say Loudon to show the house, but she wasn't representing them, and they ended up becoming an unrepresented buyer.
Exactly. And the other thing is that if you remember, before August 24, regularly would have an open house, and here comes a Redfin agent, and it's the first time they ever met the person.
Yeah, that's
no
what happened.
Agreement in place. And so all of that is supposedly supposed to go by the wayside. Now, the challenge is if I see it being violated, how do I report that? I don't know what they got. It's hearsay is the challenge. But anyway, yeah. Okay. All right, folks, have a great weekend. Try to stay indoors. All this smoke, if you're not aware, it's the Canadian wildfires that smoke's getting down here. It's clearer than it was this morning at 6:30, so maybe it'll blow out.
Bring back the face mask.
Yeah.
Thanks, Anthony.
All right, bye, y'all. Take care.
Have a good weekend.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
All right.